And I'll now call up Mr. Don Lewis from E3 Technologies. And the brief background to Don's appearance before us today: he contacted a number of councillors earlier in the year with a willingness to demonstrate how some of the available technology today can assist in achieving emission reduction goals, which of course is an ongoing interest amongst many around this table. And I think Don has a presentation that will be up on the screen. So welcome, Don. When the button comes on red, that you've been captured. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Watson. I really appreciate the opportunity to address you, and that my submissions haven't gone completely on deaf ears, as it were. So my presentation today is about hydrogen on demand. Now, there's been a lot of talk about hydrogen and used as a fuel. Hydrogen on demand has actually been around for quite a while now, and what E3 Technologies does is we've actually, let me just have a look. I'm not quite sure. Can we just? Leave it on the desk. Oh. Yeah. Okay, so E3 Technologies is about identifying real-world technology that what we do is we seek out technology that's maybe hasn't been seen before or has been used overseas but not been seen down here, identifying that technology, and then because we kind of believe in not reinventing the wheel. So if someone's already done this, we'd like to adopt that, bring it to New Zealand and show how it can be used here. Hopefully in the promotion of that, we also maybe find some ways of actually tweaking it a little bit and giving a little bit of the Kiwi treatment, adding a little bit of technology, maybe a little bit of, with a hydrogen on demand, for instance, some electronics to make sure that it maps nicely with the various motors it's in for. So the solution is hydrogen on demand. Now, we're not producing enough hydrogen using this process, which is basically electrolysis. We don't produce enough hydrogen to actually run the vehicle on it. This is actually just utilising the hydrogen as a catalyst to enhance the burn, if you like. So, and it's actually quite well demonstrated and proven that a small amount of hydrogen in the combustion cycle will increase the flame speed, which means that the fuel that you have in your combustion chamber, and whether it be petrol or diesel, is burnt more completely. That means that you're actually liberating far more of the power that you have in your fuel, but also it means that you're burning the fuel more completely. So there's less emissions going out through the exhaust pipe. So the hydrogen on demand acts as a catalyst to ensure that the fuel that you have, that you are trying to utilise to do work, is actually fully utilised. The byproduct of the hydrogen on demand is water. This also means that the whole system is cleansed by the water in the exhaust. AdBlue does something similar, but it doesn't. It's not added at the combustion cycle. It's actually added post combustion, so it actually cleans the DPF filter through the exhaust system. So the idea is very, very similar, but what we're doing is we're using the opportunity to add the hydrogen or Brown's gas to the combustion cycle. When I was at ECA, one of the things that we had a problem with trying to get manufacturers to adopt biofuels, and because they said, well, the vehicle wasn't designed for biofuels. The thing is, there is no warranty on, or we're not breaking any warranties when it comes down to actually putting hydrogen into the air intake, because there's no specification for the air that's actually intake through that. So it's an interesting concept. To add AdBlue to an existing generator or diesel motor for a ferry, for instance, would be very expensive. The cost of adding the hydrogen on demand is very, very small. The result of putting hydrogen into the air intake is that you actually run a cooler motor, it's smoother running, it cleans the catalytic converter and the DPF filter. You realise more power, and there's nothing wrong with that. Hence, you actually end up with an energy efficiency. Most of the technology, or most of the reports that we've seen from the US report on the energy efficiency savings. No one's really kind of concentrated on the emissions. One of the things that attracted me originally was an article in the Herald by Bernard Orsman about the fact that we're trying to attack the emissions part of it, but we have no way of kind of really addressing that. So this I think is a really good opportunity for us to do that. So with less emissions, more of the fuel actually burnt, you actually also get more power. And grab the next slide, please. So what is the proposal? What do I want? Well, I'd like us to actually be open-minded here and do a trial. So the first stage would be for council to investigate what vehicles it has in its fleet that would not easily be converted to other forms of clean energy, i.e. not electrified easily like your car fleet. For instance, your container lift, ferries, so forth. These are vehicles that you're not going to be able to convert to electricity easily if we did have the electrical and battery technology available to do that. We would run a trial. The costs per trial would be in the order of between $4,000 to $5,000. Depends on how much reporting you want to do. I would suggest you probably would like to ensure that it's actually done independently, so the reporting might be actually done by others. If that trial is successful, and I certainly hope it is, we'll then move on to stage 2, which would then be to identify more plant and machinery in tranches that we could then address this and roll this out to. What's the downside? The downside is there's actually really not very much of a downside. Because there is very limited modification to the engine, the hydrogen on demand cycle actually connects to your alternator and so forth, so it pulls power out of off the alternator. The hydrogen on demand is generated as you need it, so you're not storing it, so there's no fire issue there. The hydrogen is bubbled through the air intake, and at that point we can actually then disconnect the hydrogen. In fact, actually, if the vehicle runs out of hydrogen for whatever reason, i.e. run out of water, and that's all we're applying here is just demineralised water, then the vehicle will actually revert back to just running on diesel or petrol. So the risk to the council is actually that we would actually be able to put these units on, test it, prove the technology, prove what it could do, not only prove the energy efficiency, but also the emissions figures. Stage 2 would be to roll this out to more, but I'd also like to include some safe and fuel efficient driver training as well, because if you're going to have this extra energy efficiency, it would be nice to capture that and actually make sure you're going to use it. What most of the participants have previously done is they've used that extra power to drive quicker or deliver more or do more work very much quicker. So we can grab the last slide, please. We have one independent testimonial in New Zealand, and that's from a gentleman called Mike Price, and he enjoyed around about a 30% improvement initially, and he admits he actually uses the power now to climb hills quicker. So he's getting around about 20 to 25% improvement. That fuel efficiency also goes back to the whole thing that we're actually burning the fuel more efficiently, so there's less emissions. But he doesn't have an emissions module or analysis on his vehicle, so we can't tell it. The US supplier that we'd be using, they have many references on their website. I mean, for instance, the Yukon is a 75% improvement. It's just a tremendous amount of improvement. But it comes down to how you're going to use that. So that's why I would actually recommend maybe that we use the safe and energy and fuel efficient driver training to actually capture that for you. Basically, the payback would be around about 2 years on a $4,000 on your average $4,000 conversion.
Okay. Thank you very much for that presentation, Don. Some quite impressive reduction statistics here. We've got a couple of councillors who want to ask questions. Councillor Walker.
Sure. My question is around the cost and the deal. You're interested in a trial. Having said that, if the product is as cost effective as you suggest, and we, that is Auckland Council, is going to get a reduction in our fuel, is it conceivable that you could come up with a proposition that actually doesn't cost us? You get recouped for the cost of the installation, and an arrangement that, for example, some of the solar companies and the like have, whereby their capital cost is covered by the reduction in cost to the consumer. So is there a deal you could come up with, because then on the basis of that we might be able to roll it out more substantially?
Oh, look, certainly I would welcome any proposal. I think really the first thing would be to prove the technology and prove it to yourselves, so that actually, because as I say, the emissions figures that I have are from my business colleague's vehicle. He's put a sensor on the tailpipe, and it is quite remarkable the level of improvement. He's getting in the order of around 90% drop in emissions, which seems an absolutely bizarre figure. Hence, I'm a bit inclined to go, I think we kind of really need to get some real world figures here on that. So the first stage would be to look at, identifying a couple of pieces of equipment that you think we could test and that sort of thing. And then certainly after that, I'm not a financier, so but I'm sure that if I was to go to a finance company and we were looking at some sort of maybe some sort of lease period, whereby the equipment is leased to you over a period of time. That way, it's a fixed cost. The payback is less than 2 years, and then after that, hey, it's on there.
So, just a very quick supplementary question, Mr. Chair. I mean, there are entities. I mean, ECA. I think the council's got a climate fund. There's some form of grant that's available from the government. Aren't there sources of funding that you could go to reduce our cost?
Certainly, I think that ECA, I have good contacts at ECA, would be quite keen on this. The unfortunate thing is that $4,000 per installation, it kind of doesn't, it's not enough. ECA is more interested in when it's $100,000, but certainly if we were to go to them with a proposal where you're going to roll this out to the whole bus fleet or whatever, then that may well be something that we could, certainly go to ECA and get some funding, co-funding for. They usually from memory, their co-funding is around about 40 to 50%, and in which case, if that means that your diesel bill, your payback on your diesel bill would actually then be within a year. That's but I see this for the council. This is not so much about saving money on diesel. It's actually about being able to report really strong emissions reduction figures, and that's what hasn't been captured to date.
Absolutely. Final question, Councillor Turner.
Thank you very much too. So that kit, the unit comes in a kit form. Is it a universal kit that fits any model?
Excuse me. There is a number of different sizes depending upon the size of the engine. Most of the kits that we've put together are around about the $4,000 mark. A little bit less maybe, but then by the time you install, you've got to then also tune the engine so that it recognises the fact that it doesn't have to.
I understand that. It's just, sorry, the kit is a universal kit in a box, is it? That you...
As you can see from that photo, that's spread around the Yukon engine. Yeah, but we can put it in a box for sure.
And what would it cost on average?
That's what I say. It's around about the $4,000 mark.
Just for the kit without installation?
It would be a little bit less than that without installation, but I suggest that you probably need a little bit of expertise, and certainly we could do the training.
So if I may interrupt, sorry. So I'm a qualified mechanic, I'm a practicing mechanic, I have my alternate fuel certificate. My business is still one of the only ones in Auckland which has a warrant of fitness licence for alternate fuels. I have 5 vehicles running on alternate fuels, and I did so on Motor Trade Alternate Fuel Association in the late 80s.
Okay.
My question is, if I was prepared to fund stage 1 for you,
Yes.
and supply a vehicle, would you accept that?
For sure. Yes.
Okay, the offer stands. Thank you.
Lovely.
Okay, we don't usually get response action like that. Yes, thank you, Councillor Turner, and thank you, Don, for your presentation. We will pass that on to the various personnel in council who are dealing with emissions and also to Auckland Transport. Councillor Turner, would you like to move the motion of thanks for Don for his presentation? And
Until the test is over, Mr.
Okay, he's putting a rider on that. Moved by Councillor Walker, seconded by Councillor Fletcher. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Thanks very much, Don, and we look forward to the trial, the deal that's just been sealed in the trial. Thank you very much.
I look forward to the trial as well.
We'll touch base soon. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll now, a third presentation.